Welcome to Lesson 7 of our Music Theory Workshop. Today we're going to learn how to build chords off of the scales we made in our previous lessons. I'm KC Perlberg.
And I'm Josh Roltsch.
Josh, you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
So what's the first step, Josh?
Well, the first thing you need to do when thinking about chords is to build your 7-note diatonic scale.
What note should we start on today?
Let's start on C.
Okay, so C, it's our first note, it's the ledger line below the staff, and it sounds like this.
From there, let's build the rest of the scale.
Now this is review for most of us, but you know that we just go up the staff, we go letter by letter. Because it's a C scale, there's no sharps or flats, so it becomes a lot easier for us. The next notes are D, E, F, G, A, and B.
And then after that, of course you would do C again, but for the sake of this lesson, the one chord, the C, is going to be just repeated.
It's the same as the 8th note of the scale.
So from here, after we've built our scale, the next thing for us to do is to build snowmen on top of the notes.
Snowmen?
Yeah, so if you have the bottom note, you're just going to build on top of that. So if your bottom note is on the ledger line like our C is, then you do the next line on top of that, which is the E. The next line on top of that, which is the G. So then it looks like your chord is a snowman.
And if you play that chord, like the one you see in front of you right now, it sounds like this.
So that's our C chord.
We can do that on every note?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Let's give it a shot. Here's a chord on the D note, a chord on E, a chord on F, a chord on G, a chord on A, and lastly, your chord on B.
All right. So from here, let's take a look and figure out what chords are major and what chords are minor.
So Josh, I noticed that in every chord, since we built a snowman, there's always a third between each note.
Absolutely. What you have to do when determining major or minor chords is to figure out what the relationship between each of those balls in the snowman are. So, for instance, if you take the first chord, the C chord, the C is on the bottom and the E is on the E line. If you analyze the space between that, the interval between that, it's a major third.
And we remember from lesson 5 when we learned how to determine whether the distance between notes was a major or a minor third. So this is review for a lot of you out there.
From there, what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what the distance between the next two notes are. So for instance, in the C chord, the E and the G, the interval between that is a minor third.
So here's your major third, and here's your minor third.
So throughout this lesson, we're going to refer to the major chords as blue chords. They're going to show up as blue chords. So with this, you see that we've constructed the first chord. The C chord is a major chord. If you take a look at the other two chords in the scale, there will be the 4 chord, which is the F chord, and the 5 chord, which is the G chord. These are chords that share the same relationship of intervals between the notes.
So in music, whenever a chord has a major third on bottom and a minor third on top, we call that a major chord. Your C chord, F chord, and G major chord are your major chords when you're in the key of C.
What about the other chords, Casey?
Well, when that pattern is reversed, you get a different kind of chord. And we call those minor chords. Now in this lesson, you'll always see minor chords represented in red. So let's take the D chord, for instance, the number 2 chord in our scale. It starts on D, has F, and has A. Now you all remember if we asked you to find out what kind of third D to F is, you would know that that's a minor third. And then if you look again and go from F to A, it's a major third. And whenever in music we have a chord in which the bottom third is minor and the top third is major, we call those minor chords. And here in this scale, our minor chords are the 2 chord D, the 3 chord E, and the 6 chord, which is on A. Those are the 3 minor chords. So here's a helpful rule. Whenever you have one of these chords with 2 different types of thirds in them, whatever the bottom third is, major or minor, that's what kind of a chord it is.
What about the 7th chord?
The 7th chord? You mean the one that's built on B?
Yes.
We call those diminished chords. And we'll talk about them later.
In a next lesson, we'll talk about diminished chords.
So just hold on tight to them for now. But if we go back to our original scale, you can see that on each of the notes of the scale, when you build a chord off of them, it becomes a major chord on 1, a minor chord on 2, a minor chord on 3, major chords both on 4 and 5, a minor chord on 6, and then that weird diminished chord that Josh talked about, and we'll talk about that in the next lesson.
If you'll notice, underneath each of the chords, we've put not only the capital M and lowercase m to denote major and minor, but also the capital Roman numeral and lowercase Roman numeral to denote which exact chord in the scale it is, in the key. So Casey, why are major and minor and Roman numerals important?
Well, they become the building blocks of all the music that we hear. So almost any time when you're driving in the car listening to the radio or some of your favorite music on your iPod, all of those songs are going to be built on the different chords we've shown you here today. And some, if you have a good and working knowledge of how these chords work, can let you almost write those songs out just by hearing them. Oftentimes, certain chords in these scales will be used much more than others will. Josh, can you tell us which chords those are?
Those chords are going to be the major chords, so the 1 or the C, the 4, and the 5. Let's take a look at an example, old-time rock and roll, and as these chords are going by, we'll pop it up on the screen and tell you exactly which ones they are.
And if you could apply this to almost any song you hear. These 1, 4, and 5 chords in today's music appear over and over and over again. So listen along to this. It's one of my favorite songs, and you can see where the 1 chords, the 4 chords, and the 5 chords happen.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I'll sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Don't try and take me to a disco.
So there's a pretty good example that shows you the use of the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord. But that's not to say that in any sort of music, the only chords you're going to hear is the 1, 4, and the 5. The other chords, you're going to hear those all over the place, and those are a huge part of everyday music as well as classical music, all that sort of stuff.
Now this same process can be repeated for any major scale up and down the staff. So even if it's not a C scale, let's say if it's an F scale, the 1 chord, 4 chord, and 5 chords will still be major, and the 2, 3, and 6 chords will still be minor. Now, in our next lesson, we're going to move on to that weird 7th chord, the diminished chord. We're also going to teach you what happens if you add another layer to the snowman on top and make it what we call a 7th chord. That's it for us today, guys. I'm Casey.
I'm Josh.
Hope you enjoyed.